Right, I'd like to call the committee of the whole meeting for Monday, January 15th, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gaffino.
Here.
Trustee Curtis. Trustee Lowry.
Here.
Trustee Nedved.
Here.
Trustee Salazar. Here.
All right, audience comments, trustee comments. Item 1 under discussion, Steve.
Thank you. Item number 1 on discussion is a PUD that's being proposed by a company named Gemco. The property is at the corner of Route 25 and Route 56, and they're looking to do a 17,800 square foot addition to the current building there. And Nathan is going to walk us through the discussion. As a reminder, this is a concept. So right now, the developer, the business is just looking for feedback on what the board's comments are, so they know whether or not to move forward and so on, and go through the entire zoning process with the Plan Commission and Village Board.
Okay, so 111 North River Street, Gemco. The original building that's out there was built back in 1955. The current owners purchased the property in 2021. Gemco Roofing and Building Supply is the user. As you can see from this picture, so the property is outlined in red. There are several different parcels as part of this property. So there's a sliver there, a sliver there. There's 2 lots that I guess at some point way in history were residential lots because they're still zoned R2. There are not houses on them. They're vacant and part of this lot. So because of that, there are several nonconformities to the lot. Multiple property lines, setback issues. You know, these small parcels aren't even legal lots. So there's several things going on kind of with the existing zoning of the property. The proposal would be to do an addition, a 17,800 square foot building addition. The new addition would meet current code for all the setbacks, including the 50-foot landscape setback along 56 and 25. You see the big green space there. The existing building would be brought closer to current code, would be, improved in that direction, but would not be able to meet all of the setbacks in current code. So as you see here, right now the property is paved right out to the curb line of 25. There's no grass along the right of way there. So they would be pulling that back out and adding some landscaping, not 50 feet worth, because that would put you like at the front stoop of the building. But they are, providing some landscaping there. They're going to pave all the existing gravel areas, stripe the parking lot to be code compliant spaces. The existing curb cut of the property would remain where it is. So delivery trucks would come in, enter here, circle the property, and then this part of the property they can pull through. So I'll show you what that looks like. So there's a rendering showing the door. That would be for delivery and pickup of roofing supplies as supplies get dropped off and then contractors come and pick them up. So there's another rendering showing the existing building with the addition. There it is kind of from the other vantage point. They are proposing a yard in back with a fence. Right now they're looking for an up to 12-foot fence. Because of the grade change as you're going up the hill, there will be some sort of retaining wall on this back line. So we don't quite know exactly how much of that is wall and then fence on top of the wall. That will be sorted out through engineering because we don't know what the height of that wall would be. But there would be some sort of retaining wall in the back. They are showing some outside storage behind the building. So going back to the site plan here. So the new building would have storage, and then the existing building would be closer to code, but would still have some code exceptions. For example, the rear setback back here, it's very close to that property line. Nothing they can do about that unless they tore down the building back there. So, that would remain as is. So we'd be proposing to approve this as a PUD with both the new building. We would replat the property to combine all the lots We would take care of the 2 lots that are still zoned residential, so it's all the same zoning. And approve it as one PUD. The applicant is here. Someone can come on up and answer any questions you have. I don't know who wants to speak. The lucky winner.
How's it going? My name's Kevin Gleason with Gemco Roofing Supply. Yeah, so we're a family-run company. My grandfather started in 1977, and we're looking to expand operations out here in North Aurora and try to grow some business. You guys have
I
any
have a
questions for
question.
us?
So that intersection's always been a little bit wonky. It's actually quite a dangerous intersection, in my opinion. How much truck traffic do you anticipate having coming and going? And do you think that's going to have an adverse effect on that intersection? I mean, we have people who get confused. I just can't imagine trucks coming and going if that's going to exacerbate that issue.
So on a typical day, like in the summer, when we've got busy season, we might have like 2 trucks coming in delivered, 2 to 3, depending on the day. As far as our own trucks getting loaded, we're gonna start with probably 2 or 3 trucks out there, and they usually get loaded the night before, go out for the delivery, and then come back for other deliveries. So it's not a ton of traffic.
Okay.
If there's customers coming in with like pickup trucks, you know, they pick up material as they need it for the job site and then go on their way.
So when you're talking about trucks, do you mean semi trucks or just kind of bigger trucks or?
We have different kinds, so they're like 20-foot flatbeds
Okay,
with cranes on them.
What do you
It won't be a
haul in?
semi in the beginning.
What's in the trucks that you,
Roofing materials, they're flatbeds, so it's all
roofing material.
roofing materials stored on the flatbed.
shingles and things or?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
So is most of the pickups then gonna be pickup trucks and guys with,
yeah, they usually just drive like a Ford F-150, and then
how many of those a day would you expect or?
it all depends, you know. In our current location in Bellwood, we have, you know, around 15 to 20 pickups a day. I don't see that in the beginning being the case out here, as we're kind of new and getting our name out there. But you know, it has potential to.
What's the circle at the south end there? Is that for semis, just to turn around and not go through your bay?
Correct, yeah, for extra turnaround space.
Would that be often? Or is everybody just going through your building when they leave or
Just depends on if
are they
need
gonna
to
be
turn-
loaded out there?
What's that?
Are they gonna be loaded outside?
Oh,
in
our
that-
plan would be to load it in the back, like kind of where that truck's at, yeah.
Why would they come in and turn around just if they,
Just
Came to
in
the wrong
case, I mean,
place.
if there's stuff in the way or we're busy, you know, in that section of the area, we just wanted another outlet.
and then what kind of material are you keeping outside then?
It would be predominantly shingles. That's typically what you store outside. And then there's some rolled roofing as well, but predominantly shingles.
That fence height, is that the most it could be at 12 foot or?
So by code, the max is 8 foot, so they'd be asking for an exception in PUD to go up to 12. Again, along the back line,
You
we
may-
don't know exactly what that height would be, 'cause there's a wall component in there. So is it 12 total, and half of that's fence and half of that's wall, or what that looks like, you know, that would get worked through during the PUD process as we look at engineering.
But that would be the same height as all the rest of the fence. Is that what you're saying? Like if the wall comes up, the fence gets shorter?
It could be that way, or does the fence go up on top of the wall? I don't know how tall the wall is going to be, so I don't have good answers for that, but they are asking for a taller fence.
Nathan, where does the fence perimeter start? Is it where that sort of dotted line is, right to the right of the,
Yeah,
called
so
the
it would
circles?
start
Okay.
on-
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. That's
My concern would be, when you typically see those 12-foot fences, it's usually at a junkyard or something along those lines, something where they want to conceal something that's going to be unsightly. And I understand that this is not in a residential area. It backs to, I think that's Red's Garage, another industrial property. But when you think about how massive a 12-foot fence is, I do have some concerns with that.
Yeah, I would like to maybe see we go through with this, I'd like to see maybe some kind of trees or something, maybe along that fence, close to that fence to hide it, and maybe even potentially hide what's stored in the back, because I'm sure you'll be able to see over the fence from from Butterfield Road there. But yeah, the more screening to me, the better, especially for the Butterfield Road side.
It would require a full landscape
Yeah.
plan.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the fence is okay because I'd rather see a fence than stacks of shingles. But would you go above that 12 foot with your stacks?
No, they would be stacked too high. They're 4 feet high, so that puts you at 8, and that gives us a little clearance to not be.
Definitely landscaping. That would soften that up. How about employees? Would you be hiring more
Yes,
people or what?
so
what
we're
staff
looking
to
at
be
to
there?
start with about anywhere from like 5 to 7.
Do you have sort of like Monday through Saturday hours? Are you open 7 days a week? Until what time?
Yeah, so April through December would be Monday through Friday with a Saturday. It's from 7 to 11. and
11,
then
11 p.m. at night.
No, AM, just 4 hours.
Oh, just 4 hours.
And then we'd be in the winter months when we're slow, like right now, we close on Saturdays. So December, January, February, and March.
I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, so I'm going to ask you again. So you're just open from 7 in the morning to 11 in the morning?
Correct.
And that's
On
all.
Saturdays only, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 30.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Okay.
didn't.
No, I was like,
Yeah.
people just
Forgot
okay.
about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
What about any trucks? Do you have any trucks that you're going to park there permanently?
Yes.
And where will they be parked?
They'll be parked inside.
Inside, so
yeah.
nothing around the front
No,
of the
no,
building.
nothing will
anything
be
like that?
outside.
I mean, I like the idea that it's going to be developed into something that looks better than it does now. The fact that something new is coming there, we'd love to welcome a new business. So generally speaking, I'm definitely in favor of putting something there. It looks better than what's there. But also taking into account what you've all sort of made comment to already, and the landscaping I think would help. But there are trees. The whole, you can't even see it. If you're coming up Butterfield from the east, all of those trees
Most of it. yeah.
basically block it entirely already.
Mike?
I have no problem with it at all, but I do like the idea of hiding the fence with some landscaping of some kind. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good idea and a pretty good use of the corner.
Laura? Okay. Yep. Todd? Yep. Same. All right. Thank you. So we'll work with them.
Go through the process and go through the PUD process, and I'll reach out to you guys tomorrow with the next steps.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys.
You bet.
Thank you.
All right, item 2, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2 on our committee of the whole agenda tonight is our 6-month or mid-year financial review. This is something we do. We're heading into our budget season. Jason Paprocki, our finance director, puts together basically a 6-month review of where our revenues and expenditures are. Kind of gives you a glimpse of what we're looking at before we start putting the budget numbers together that the department heads are working on right now. And then have the budget presented in March for the first time. So with that, Jason's going to walk us through.
All right, thank you. So I just have a few slides. I'll go high level on the major revenues here. So for the first 6 months, here's all the various village funds. The right column to the right has a $6.9 million increase or more revenues and expenses. And just kind of looking at some of these funds, especially the general fund, the $2.2 million more revenues and expenses. Like some of this is timing related, considering we receive our property tax levy at the beginning of the year. So all that money kind of comes up front and gets spent then as we go later in the year. I'm looking at like motor fuel tax up $468,000. A lot of that fund, we accumulate money and we use them for big projects. Like I know the Orchard Gateway is coming up in a few years. We plan to use MFT money for that. Route 31 TIF, $600,000 decrease. That's sending money over to the United TIF to buy properties, which then you see on the United TIF, that one's up $1.1 million because of that money coming in to that one. And then our water fund is up $1 million now. But again, a lot of that is just delays in capital. We had a lot of capital lined up. We actually budgeted to decrease that fund by $400,000 this year. And it's just a lot of the things we were planning on doing just haven't happened yet. So going into the general fund's biggest revenue source is sales tax. If you see from the graph there, sales tax revenue these last 3 years has gone up significantly. Some of that is because of in October 2020, we got the first distribution of the 3% cannabis tax. Then the leveling the playing field act in 2021. That's where basically it took money that was previously used tax and moved that to sales tax. So we saw an increase there. But we are seeing sales tax this year coming down a little bit. We budgeted 6.9 million. We're probably right now trending towards $6.8 million. So we're going to be probably under budget this year. And if you look at last year, the actual $7.3 million, we'll probably be under that too, as we're starting to see things, inflation's going down a little bit. Things are kind of cooling off versus these last few years where we had inflation at 6-7%. Income tax continues to be on the rise. Majority of this is just because they're calling improving labor market and then strong individual and corporate tax returns. So a lot of this money gets distributed on a per capita basis from the state. We budgeted $2.6 million. Right now, we're probably looking at having $2.8 million, so about $200,000 over budget, which kind of puts us in line where we were at last year with the $2,810,000. Use tax has been kind of up and down these last 5 years, again, because I mentioned that leveling the playing field act, where that took money out of use tax and made it sales tax. We budgeted this year $712,000. Currently, we're projected about $691,000, which is down fairly significantly from last year, as we're kind of seeing more money being pulled out of use tax, but then kind of go to the other side to sales tax. Building permits continues to be a strong revenue these past couple of years. Some of the major projects that are leading to this is the Valley Green Building C and then the Park 88 development. Typically, every year we kind of budget about $300,000 for permits, just not knowing what some of the major projects are. So this kind of takes care of the, just your normal people getting decks or buildings or small office build out type of things. This year to date, we're already at $618,000. So we're projecting, over 767,000. And when you look at last year, we were at 693. We've almost hit through the first 6 months of the year, we almost hit where we were at last year. So a lot of money on the building permits coming in. And then just on the general fund expenses, year to date, we're about $718,000 under where we thought we were on the expense side. A lot of this has to do with just timing of when we thought certain payments were going to happen versus when they do. 242,000 of that is salaries and benefits. So this would be just retirements or employee turnover, kind of saving money from going from higher salaries to lower, or maybe positions were open, not having somebody in that position for a little bit of time. We're saving money on the salary side. And then the police dispatch services came in $94,000 under budget this year. We do have a budgeted $600,000 capital transfer that we'll look at the end of the year. This is just any excess money in the general fund that will go towards our capital projects. This could be more just depending on where we end up. And our fund balance when we started the year was $8.9 million, which is 60.1% of our budgeted expenditures and debt transfer. As you remember, the village has a policy that says we want to be in that 40 to 50% range. So we're well above that with a very healthy reserve in the general fund. Just moving on to the TIFs. The Route 31 TIF, we're seeing property tax revenue go down there. This year, we're down about $30,000. And that's really just because of those disconnection of the parcels when creating the United TIF. We did have that budgeted transfer of $925,000 that came out of Route 31 and into United TIF. Then on the United TIF side, we're actually seeing an increase now in the revenue and the property tax revenue as that TIF starts to grow. And plus we pick up those Opus Valley Green properties. So where this year we're up $345,000 in property tax revenue for the TIF, and we consider that to go up a lot more as these years go on. We did purchase 40 North Monroe out of the United TIF, and then we're currently looking at other properties to acquire in that TIF. Moving on to the Capital Projects Fund, the main revenue source of the Capital Projects Fund is our non-home rule sales tax, which is currently at that 0.5%. This has been fairly strong these past few years, again, with kind of inflation increasing the money that's coming in here. We budgeted $1.4 million. We're about half of that through the year. We think it's going to be about $1,412,000, so maybe just a little under budget this year, but kind of significantly under last year's of $1,556,000. So similar to sales tax, we're just seeing it come back a little bit. Still well above where it was 4 or 5 years ago, but not as much as these past 2 years when kind of prices were kind of going out of control. And then another revenue source of the capital projects fund is our utility tax. Our electricity tax year to date, we're $197,000, which is down about $10,000 where we were last year through this time. And then the gas tax is only about $61,000, but that's down $25,000, almost 30% from where we were last year. And these are just very volatile revenues. They just kind of go up and down based on temperature, energy costs. So they're really kind of hard to predict from year to year. And then you see on the first column, that blue bar from fiscal year 1920, that's when we had the telecommunications tax in the capital projects fund, but then that got moved over and that's now a general fund revenue. So only the gas and electricity tax goes towards our capital projects now. Then on the capital projects side, some major projects we had, the 2023 annual road program, the Locust, Spruce, and Chestnut road improvements. The Tanner Storm Sewer, we only budgeted $1.4 million there, but that's coming in at about $2.9 million. So some of the reserve that we've built up in that fund will be used for some of these projects that are kind of over budget or more than what we thought they were. Plus, we also thought that the Public Works facility, the engineering, the planning, and then the construction management was going to be further along. So we had a $1.6 million budget for there, but we've only spent about $20,000 to date because that's kind of a little behind schedule, like I said, where we thought we were. I mentioned earlier that budgeted $600,000 transfer. Over the past 4 years, we've put $9.7 million from the general fund into the capital projects fund to help build that reserve to where it was June 1st at that $13.1 million. But like I mentioned with the Tanner Storm Sewer, is having that money there for when something kind of comes well over budget or something unexpected comes up, we have that reserve there to be able to cover these things when something comes in over $1 million over where we thought it was. There is no target reserve policy, so we have a very healthy reserve, but again, we plan on using it probably for some of the public works building once we get moving forward with that. And then moving over to the water fund, we did increase rates 15% as of June 1st. So far, we're at about $1.5 million in water sales revenue. We project that to be about $2.7 million, so we're maybe a little under budget just because we're down so far this year of how much water we're selling versus how we were last year, but significantly above where we were last year, mainly because of that rate increase. And then another revenue source that's been pretty significant these last couple of years is the permit or the connection fees. Similar to building permits, when these new places come in and we're selling these connection fees, that's actually helping on the water side too, is when they connect to our water system. And then finally, some of the expenditures on the water fund side, we had the water main replacements in the Fox River crossing budgeted for $972,000. Still waiting to do those. Some West treatment plant improvements, and then some well 6, which we budgeted $270,000, but I believe we awarded that one at $370,000. So again, some of the reserve we built up in that fund is going to pay for these things that come over budget. We do have a annual debt payment that goes to 2032. This year it's $495,000. Every year it's about that. Just changes how much is principal, how much is interest, but it's around that $500,000 range every year until 2032. We did have a reserve balance of $9.1 million in the water fund, but I mentioned earlier we projected to actually use $400,000 of that this year because we just had a lot of capital lined up, so we were going to be spending a lot more money than actually was coming in this year, but it just hasn't happened this year with some of the projects kind of on delay right now or just taking longer. And our current focus, on the water fund right now is just looking at rates and making sure they're really covering all of our operating expenditures plus some of these long-term capital things like a new water tower, and just making sure we have money lined up so when those things do come, we're not maybe having to issue more debt, or we can maybe try to pay out of cash or reserve for some of these things.
And just as a reminder, the water tower being a big ticket item, that is something that we are currently engineering to build a third water tower, and that price range is right now at the size we want is in that $7 to $8 million range.
That kind of completes just my quick overview of kind of where we're at these first 6 months. A lot of this stuff we're going to be using right now we're in the process of developing our budgets for this next upcoming fiscal year. So just kind of giving an idea of kind of where we sit now to help build for the next year.
Any questions for Jason?
Very good report.
Yep. All right. Thank you. All right. So that ended our discussion. Excuse me. I need a motion to adjourn, and we're going to with the exec session for
Motion to
Right.
adjourn.
acquisition and sale of property. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. All right.